Good evening, you all. You can say good evening. You were so quiet so early. I figured we should have a good evening. Yes. Awesome. Can we have a roll call?
Ms. Cotter.
Present.
Dr. Genovese. Mr. Kapadia.
Here.
Dr. Lilliston. Here. Ms. Peters.
Here.
Let's see, Dr. Resnick. Mr. Slotman. Dr. Stiliano.
Here.
Ms. Williams-Galliano.
Here.
We have a quorum.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of the Act, the Hopewell Valley Regional Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting In accordance with the provision of the Act, the Hopewell Valley Regional School Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof communicated to the Hopewell Valley News and the Times on January 7th, 2026. This meeting notice was also sent to Comcast Cable and Verizon Fios. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Ed. The meeting is being recorded for the purposes of board review, future reference, preparation of the minutes, and viewing on the YouTube Bulldog TV and the school district website, www.hvrsd.org. Members of the public who intend to participate in public comment, we ask you to sign in prior to speaking. This will assist us with recording a record keeping. If you could, please stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll figure that out over. Awesome. Magic. All right, I need a first and a second to approve the meeting minutes for April 27th.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? Seeing none, minutes are passed. You wanna do that? All right. Well, we are going to have the amazing Miss Eileen Zhang do a final report for her year with us as the student representative. So I'll turn over the mic to Miss Zhang.
As the school year begins to be wrapped up, student participation is still alive and well. AP exams were successfully administered in the beginning of May and ended last Friday after 2 weeks of hard work. With summer approaching, students are finishing the year strong and state testing is being administered this week. The class of 2027 celebrated a wonderful night for their junior prom, and the class of 2026 is currently traveling in the Poconos for their senior trip. Seniors are also held a Future Plans Day in May to celebrate all, and we look forward to continuing to celebrate their achievements at upcoming awards nights and graduation. Our sports teams are thriving as seasons come to an end, with boys tennis going into sectionals, boys lacrosse to the state tournament, and boys volleyball to the conference tournament following their 2 successful senior nights. In the arts, the HV band program held its final spring concert last week in collaboration with the Timberlane Middle School Band. Similarly, the HV Orchestra performed a wonderful spring concert, with many students going on to perform at the Central Jersey MEA Honors Orchestra as well. HV Choirs then held a successful Hopewell's Got Talent, Senior Recognition Night, and Vox in the Vines, each event filled with amazing music. To round out our arts programs, HV Dance is having a successful choreography night today. And finally, today marks the last day of student reports to the board. On behalf of both Grace Corvaline and myself, we want to thank everyone for this incredible opportunity. We have truly appreciated being a part of these meetings and lending a student voice. While Grace will be attending the College of William & Mary and I will be heading to Skidmore College, we are leaving the position to Ellie Mahan, who we know will do amazing. Best of luck to everyone, and thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. Any comments from the rest of the board? We do have a small token of our appreciation for you. One last time, you know you're always welcome to stay, but we understand if you need to go. So we are both going to, Dr. Teresa and myself are going to forgo our board reports, and we are going to go ahead and move into recognizing an amazing group of people, which is the HVRSD staff retiring class of 2026.
Good evening, President Galliano Williams, board members, Dr. Treese, guests, and family and friends. It is a profound honor to present the 2026 class of retirees to the Board of Education. Collectively, these individuals represent a remarkable 423 years of service to the Hopewell Valley Regional School District. Now, while that number is certainly impressive, it's their true legacy that lies in their character. They have been the backbone of our schools, defined by an unwavering work ethic, a deep sense of mission, and a standard of professionalism that inspired everyone around them. With integrity and genuine care, they've spent their careers uplifting our students, supporting our families, and strengthening our entire community. Each retiree will receive a commemorative certificate and a gift inscribed with the following message. In recognition of your dedicated service and commitment to excellence, we extend our heartfelt appreciation for your hard work and professionalism throughout your tenure. Your contributions have greatly contributed to the success of our district. Congratulations on your retirement. Retirees, when I call your name, please come forward to receive your gifts. Samuel Adom. He's not here, but we can still clap. Mark Amantia. Caroline Baker. Kimberly Black. Lori Kavanaugh. Go back, sir. Bob Calavita. Found a good picture. We're getting off that easy. Yeah, but now I need him to advance the slide. Marie Delgrand. Michelle Dungan. Jeannie Finn. That's a good gift, you know? Patty Jasko. Heidi Kami. Tara Kiesling. Darren Lewin. Heidi Mutiner. Joyce Nagel. Tom Quinn.
I miss you.
Bill Russell. Alicia Smith. Sharon Tiziger. Tim Wolverton. Neville Williams. And John's a lot. Many of our retirees did retire several months ago, so I imagine that they are in some beautiful location with a lot of sun and waves, and that's why they couldn't be here with us this evening. On behalf of the administration and the Board of Education, thank you for your tireless dedication. As you step into this next chapter, we hope it brings you the same joy and fulfillment that you have provided to others for so many years. Please take pride in the lives you've changed and the lasting mark you will leave on Hopewell Valley. We wish you nothing but the very best. Congratulations. If we could take a formal photo of all the retirees out in front of the logo, that would be great.
We have lots to talk about. Not now.
What are you doing? That's it. You're done. You can't be hanging out here enjoying all of this. That's it. Good to see you in short.
That was hilarious. Okay, thank you all for the little intermission early on. Just always so touching to get to acknowledge all of our amazing folks who are earning a retirement. You know, it's just we're really, really grateful to have had them with us as long as we have. So with that, we have each year an opportunity as a board to do our own reflection on ourselves, and we complete a board evaluation. And this year it's kind of stacked one upon each other because of the timing of our transition of our board and the just the number of folks that were joining anew. But we're happy to have our amazing field rep, Marianne Friedman, here with us this evening, who's going to just walk us through the results of our what would have been completing our 2025 board eval. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. I don't know about all of you, but they all looked way too young to be retiring. Way too young to be retiring. So I understand that you received this over the weekend, and hopefully you had a chance to look at it. This is a very good board self-evaluation. There's a lot of really positive comments in here and a lot of really positive scores. This is not state mandated. It used to be when CUSAC first came into existence. It was mandated that each board complete a self-evaluation. And in the first revision of CUSAC, it was taken away, which was very disappointing to us at New Jersey school boards because we always feel and still feel that it is best practice for a board to really do that self-reflection piece once a year and to identify how they feel each board member feels they've done as a board and as individuals. So this is a wonderful process to go through, and I commend you for completing it even when it's not a requirement, because we know you have so many requirements today. So I'm going to go through this rather quickly, but what we want you to know is that we consider any score, any indicator that has a ranking of 3.0 or above, because it's ranked on 1 to 4 by the ratings, is we consider to be a board that's working effectively together and that's working well together. So anything that's a 3.0 or above is considered an actual strength for the board, and anything that's under a 3.0 would be considered an opportunity for growth. And so there are some of both of these. There are way more strengths than there are opportunities for growth. So if you look at the first page, this had a couple of areas of strength for you, demonstrating through your vision, mission, and goals that you focus on student achievement. As you know, with CUSAC, everything that a board does has to demonstrate that they are focused on student achievement, and you're doing that. And then also you're ensuring that the vision, mission, and goals are clearly articulated to your district stakeholders and are understood by them. And then you review progress with them with the stakeholder groups about your progress moving forward. So there are a couple of things in there that you can see are opportunities for growth. And what you may want to do is take a look at those. And when you're developing your board goals over the summer, you develop district and board goals over the summer. When you're doing your board goals, you may want to take it anything that's under a 3.0 and take a look at that and see if you want to incorporate it somehow into a board goal. Okay, so just a suggestion. And again, I hope you take time to read the comments, because the comments really were very, very nice and very complimentary to all of you, to each other. The second area is policy, and this was an area of significant strength to you all. And in fact, Pamela Lilliston was even mentioned in the comments. And I said to myself, okay, I need to find out who this is. So I went to your census and I saw that it was your vice president. And congratulations, because all that meant was that she was doing I'm assuming she's your policy chair, and that she is doing a great job. So every single one of these indicators is an area of great strength for you, and I commend you on that. And again, please take a look at the comments, because the comments talk about your areas of strength, things that you each felt were areas of strength and things that you felt may be opportunities for growth. Okay, accountability for student achievement is the next skill area, and in this, everything was above a 3.0. So again, a great area of strength for you all, providing for essential learning tools for all of your students, including a rigorous curriculum and technology, approving the curriculum that's aligned with state standards, and also recognizing high levels of staff and student achievement. And that's a wonderful thing that you all do, and I know that you do that on a regular basis. So that was all areas of strength. The governance team, relationships and accountability. This was very good also. You establish and adhere to your board operating norms or code of conduct. You abide by the School Ethics Act. Many people don't realize in the audience that the board has a code of ethics that they have to abide by, and you all are abiding by that. Maintaining confidentiality on matters that remain and need to stay and remain in as confidential items. Your meetings are focused, efficient, and provide informed deliberations. You respect and support the decisions of the majority. That's something that was ranked very high, and that's something that we find not so often as ranked very high. Because I was on my board for 9 years when dinosaurs roamed the earth, quite literally, 1999 to 2008. And I was in the minority probably a handful of times. And it was tough to be in the minority because I really believed that in what I believed in, and it was difficult to be in the minority, but yet really need to voice and say that I respect the majority opinion of the board and I respect their decision. And until you're in that minority, you don't realize how difficult that can be. And you're all doing that. So I commend you on that, because that's really big. Very, very big. You recognize that authority rests in yourselves as a board and not as individual board members. You're only a board member when you're seated at a legally advertised meeting with a quorum of the board. When you're out at ShopRite or at Stop and Shop, you're not a board member. You're who you are, but you don't have that board member hat on. But everybody else thinks you have that board member hat on, no matter where you are. So recognizing that this is the place where you make decisions and where you have authority is really key. You work together in an atmosphere of trust and respect, and your committee structure contributes to the effectiveness and the efficiency of your meetings. So those are all wonderful aspects. The next is resource management and oversight. You'll see that there are some things that are blacked out there. The things that are redacted there are because the board can only evaluate the superintendent, but that's not done in this tool, okay? So when you're commending other people, other staff members, and these were all positive, I'm going to say, they were not negative, but when you're even commending other staff members in the board self-evaluation, it could be perceived by your community that you are evaluating them. And so those are redacted. We checked with your board attorney and they agreed that those should be redacted. But again, these are wonderful. This is a very strong area in terms of resource management, adopting and monitoring an annual budget. And I know they are going to miss you, Mr. Colavita. I will miss you as their BA. I was ready to ask you if you would think about doing interim work in your retirement. And I was told that no, you're going to be working with ASBO and training new business administrators. Perfect job for you. Really perfect. And we all will benefit from that. So thank you. Providing the public with information regarding your budget and your district finances, reviewing the audit findings and responding accordingly, complying with all financial, statutory, and regulatory requirements, and also ensuring the health, safety, and security of all of the students and the staff in your district. Those areas are gigantic, and those are areas of great strength for you. In terms of community leadership, this was also an area of overall strength. Your understanding as community leaders, you advocate for all children, not just for your own kids, your neighbors' kids, your nieces and nephews, or your grandchildren. You welcome and respect colleagues, staff, community, and students by listening to all diverse points of view. You know, years ago when I was on the board, we didn't necessarily think of diversity as an asset. We thought of it as a liability. Now we're all really thinking of this as an asset. Excuse me. Voice gets crackly after a few minutes. Because with that diversity, it represents your community, and that's how you understand your full and total community. And we did that when we did the strategic plan, and you had a number of, people from various different different careers and different aspects of them in the community, whether they were community members, parents, staff members, businessmen or businesswomen. And then you conform to the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. So those are all wonderful. Individual members' contributions to the board, this was extremely high. You can clearly articulate the vision, mission, and goals. You value learning and enhance your effectiveness through studying, training, and reflection. You make every effort to attend all board meetings, prepared to make informed decisions. You operate with a governance mindset, systems thinker and strategic focus, and a commitment to deep learning and respectful of public manner. You act ethically and professionally in personal conduct and your relationship with others. You observe the chain of command. That's also extremely large. That's very, very big, because you're not trying to go out, and when you are people who all care deeply about your parents, your community, and your students. But when somebody comes to you with an issue about the district, you refer those folks to the chain of command, because that's the fastest way they can see that issue resolved. So you don't get in there and try and do it yourself. And if you did, if it came to the board table, because you are the court of last resort, you wouldn't be able to participate then in the resolution of that issue. Okay? And you don't speak behalf on the board in an official capacity unless you're deemed to do that by the full board. So then all of the greatest strengths that you have are listed on the back. Again, these are wonderful comments that you've put on here. respectful communication and collaboration, knowledge of the school district policy and school systems in general, diverse areas of expertise. That's wonderful. A desire to engage the community more fully. And then you had a couple of areas that you felt might need further focus as an effective board team, effective communication across board committees. That's something that can be worked on. There are always things that can be worked on, by the way, always. Making sure that all board members understand the chain of command. According to the actual numbers, you all do understand that, so that's great. Promoting transparency from administration and using data to drive goal setting and measure progress. So you can see that this is really a very positive self-evaluation, and it took a lot of self-reflection, and so we appreciate that. On the chart that you have, you'll see this is the first year that you will have been doing this chart. If you do a self-evaluation towards the end of this year, you'll have a comparison of last year's, what's here in this year, because this is actually 2025, and the 2026 areas. But this showed, for the most part, that it was in a much greater percentage, over 50%, felt that you were either proficient or exemplary in each of those 6 goal areas, or 6 standards. So any questions that you might have? I was asked to
No.
keep it to 20 minutes, and I think I did that.
You did great. You did great. Amanda, did you have a question?
I was going to say, I'm not sure if you're allowed to say this because I know we have to process it, but I'm curious, as someone who comes with a lot of experience, do you have recommendations? I know you said, right, look at the ones that are kind of below 3, but just looking at it as a whole, are there recommendations of things you think we should explore more?
There was a lower ranking on an in-district orientation, having an in-district orientation, excuse me, for new board members. That's something that I can come in and talk to you about. I have a lot of information that I can share with you. You have a lot of time between now and November to be able to put something together. It is the greatest gift that you can give to somebody who's newly elected, to have that in-district orientation. And you also have time. You know, when I got on my board, we had April elections. We were sworn in 2 weeks later. I sat in my superintendent's office for about 5 hours on a Saturday and going through all of the financial reports and all of the hierarchy and everything, policies and all of that, how board meetings were, agendas were created, and all of those kinds of things, what my role was going to be. And I can tell you from 8:30 until about 11, I was pretty coherent. After that, I was kind of eyes glazed over, and I tried really, really hard until 1 o'clock to be there and to be present. But a lot of it just skipped right over me. But with November election and with the January reorg, you can really try and have maybe a couple of 2-hour meetings with your new board members, between the superintendent, whoever your new business administrator is, the current board president and vice president, to go over some of those things. You could even do it virtually. And that way they'll really have both feet on the ground and be able to start knowing much more than most people do when they start. Because we're also finding that a lot of board members people who run for the board haven't necessarily been attending board meetings. So sometimes they really don't have a clue as to what they've gotten themselves into. The other thing is that we have a candidates briefing that'll be in September for it will be in Somerset, in Branchburg, I think. And we have a program for anybody who submitted their petition for candidacy, that they can come to that and learn more about what they're getting themselves into. And then the November-December timeframe, we have a 3 R's program, roles, responsibilities, and relationships, that we share with anybody who's been elected. Once somebody has been elected, they can also attend county meetings. So that helps them to feel welcome and also to understand what's going on in the county. So those are all things that they can do and that can be part of your in-district orientation. My huge disclaimer, though, is that creating an in-district orientation does not take the place of Governance 1, because Governance 1 is about boardsmanship and in-district orientation is about your district and how things run in your district. And new board member orientation now for people who were elected in November have to be taken within 90 days of them being sworn in. So that's very different than it has been in the past. It changed last year I think it was, because before that you had a year. So now you have 90 days. So it's kind of crunch time. Okay. But I think mostly what you're doing is very, very effective. I think that communication is something that all boards struggle with. Most have communication plans and a communication, schedule that they keep with their community members, parents, students, and, and the board. And those are all wonderful. A lot of times they can be done a little bit better. So, if you think that there's something that you might want to take a look at it and see if anybody else feels the same way, that maybe we could do this a little bit better, and talk about that. And then at your meeting, at your goal setting meeting, you can include some of those things in your board goals for the year. Okay. Did you have a board question?
Yeah, I do have a question. So thank you. This was so helpful.
You're welcome.
So it looks like one of the areas where we see the most variation is in the vision, mission, and goals.
Mhm.
And we had talked about one of the things we wanted to do this time around is take these results and form an ad hoc committee and think about some recommendations that we could implement. And so I'm just curious what you've seen some boards do effectively to keep their eye on the vision, missions, goals, and sort of keep that in the forefront of goal setting and measurement, and just if you have any recommendations in that area.
Sure. So most boards will ask the superintendent, because you develop generally your district goals and your board goals at the same time, to report out on those district goals at a public meeting. I'm not talking about a 2-hour presentation, but about 10, 15 minutes, talk about the things that have occurred already and the things that are coming up. And oftentimes boards don't report out on their board goals during that time. And one of the things that I learned as a very new board member, we had our field service rep come in, excuse me, and I'm okay, it won't help. Thank you, though. This is from having laryngitis a couple of years ago, just before workshop. And what happens when you have laryngitis? They tell you not to talk. I was giving 5 presentations. There was no way, and my director would have probably killed me if I couldn't go or if I wasn't able to give those presentations. So I did. And so now usually after about 10 minutes, I start to get really hoarse, and even a drink won't help, but I do thank you for that. So when I first got on the board, that was April, and we had our goal setting session over the summer. We had our field service rep come in, we developed district and board goals. Next year, she comes in and she says, so how'd you do to the superintendent, how'd you do with last year's district goals? And we talked about those. He reported out on those. She asked if the board felt that anything needed to be carried over, or if the superintendent felt anything needed to be carried over. And so we worked through that. Then we got to board goals, and she said, how'd you do with your board goals? And we all kind of looked at one another and said, we haven't really talked about them. And she said, since when? And somebody brave, it wasn't me, I wasn't that brave after just a year, said, last year when you came. And she said, okay, you either need to commit to doing something with these board goals and developing action plans for them and reporting out on them 3 or 4 times a year when you ask the superintendent to report out on the district goals, or what's the point in wasting your time and my time today to develop those board goals. So I would say that that's one of the things that you can do, because that keeps you all focused, and it keeps your community understanding that you're focused, because you're still you're reporting out on those. Developing action plans for district and board goals is not brain surgery, and it's not open heart surgery. It's just coming up with some indicators, some activities that you feel will help you achieve that board goal. And so I can come out and facilitate your goal setting over the summer if you would like. If you would not like, I can provide you with some materials that you can use in developing board goals that you can then discuss at your board goal setting session. Okay, but that's one of the things I think that will help a lot, because that carries over now to your community. They know that you not only got together one day in the summer for several hours to hash these things out and develop them, but that you're still focused on them. Okay?
Anyone else?
Yes.
It's not a question, it's a comment. I love the idea of having a candidate orientation. May I suggest that you do it earlier? Because if I remember, end of July, deadline to sign up, and then at some point in August is the deadline to change your mind and withdraw. So I'm going to pause it and say, and only partially
right.
facetiously
No, you're right.
that September is a bit late to do candidate orientation. I
The
feel like
problem
people
is-
should know what they're getting themselves into
Yes.
when they can still do something about it.
And we understand that. And we talked about trying to do something over the summer, but we don't get high attendance. And we'd rather get some higher attendance and not miss people because they're vacationing, and things like that. July and August are almost impossible to try and get people out for. So we're trying to do, but then in September, we have a bunch of holidays that we have to be respectful of, and we are respectful of those. So we've made sure that they're going to be on evenings that are not going to be the fall within any of the religious holidays. And so that's why it ends up being in September. And it's more towards, I think this year it's more towards the end. I'm not positive, but I can let you know when the central region will be. Okay.
So the other part of that, it would be good if that information was in the candidates packet. At least when I picked ours up, there was nothing about a candidate.
That's a great suggestion, and we just posted the candidates kit, so I will make sure that they add the candidates nights to that section. Thank you so much. I don't think I realized that it wasn't in there, so thank you.
We do have on our new business, we have the positions posted that we're going to be doing next year, and the candidate kit is posted. Is the form inside that link?
I believe so, yes. Great suggestion. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, Marianne, thank you so much for coming. It's always a joy. And I look forward to seeing you this summer.
Thank you. And this is on the left-hand side of your packet. This is our 12-month planning calendar. It is CUSAC-based. If you're new or not so new, you may be wondering when certain things happen. This will give you an idea of that. And then we also have the sampling of our programs, okay? And all of those, except for a superintendent search and a strategic plan, fall within your due structure. So I hope to hear from you guys. Take care. Have a great rest of the summer, and great rest of the summer. Great summer hasn't, although it feels like it started. And I hope to hear from you guys soon.
Absolutely
Take
will
care.
do. Take care. Thank you. Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you all for doing that work, and we'll look forward to spending some time together this summer on goals. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our first public comment section, and the members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You're asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. And for anyone who might be new to public comment, the sign-in booklet is at the podium. We'll also share a little time management indicators, Pam, for the...
So as Ms. Williams-Galliano mentioned, you'll have 3 minutes. When there's 30 seconds left, I will hold up the yellow sign, and then when your time is up, I will hold up the red sign.
Awesome. With that, public comment is now open. Yeah, you could just go to the podium and sign in, and then share your name.
There's
and
no one on the list. It's blank.
No, you just, as you come up, people sign up, and then you
I
can.
see. Okay, thanks. I'm so sorry. I'm new to this board meeting process, so please bear with me.
No worries at all.
Okay, so good evening. My name's Mary Woodlicky. I live on 5 Rumson Court, Pennington, and I am trying to kind of open a conversation with the board, the principals, the students, the teachers, really the community, because I feel like there's a lack of communication. There's a communication glitch in those terms. I feel like when speaking to other parents, they've come to board meetings in the beginning of the year. They come, they're waiting, they're still waiting. I messaged a friend, I'm like, are you gonna speak? She's like, I'm still waiting. It's 9:30 at night. Actually, she has to go home. She can't do her public comment. So I really kind of want to address it because it's ironic how this is like a red brick building. People feel like they're hitting a wall when they come here. And I think like we can work together to change that. It's like very simple, I think. If the public comment can be written and submitted to the board, people can kind of read along as that person's making their public comment. And maybe the board can address the issue. The person feels like their issue is heard, maybe addressed, maybe there's a solution. And I feel like that submitted public comment should be attached to the meeting minutes. And that meeting minutes should be publicized, I guess, posted on the website. I would like for it to be emailed to families, but you know, if it's posted on the website, I think that's perfect. Because as a person here in the township for 12 years, I don't know very much about board meetings. This is my first one attending a board meeting, but I feel like I've kind of noticed being in the school system, you know, just for the last few years, that there's no communication among anyone, I feel like. So I kind of want to fix that, and it's an easy fix. If the public comment is submitted, it's written, people from the township can kind of see the issue, and then maybe there's like resolving, coming up with future board meetings, like, okay, this issue was brought up, we have solutions. So I feel like that process can kind of change for all of us, so we all feel heard, and that brick building, that wall is not there for all of us. And I really would like to encourage a virtual meeting, like a Zoom or something, because I have 4 kids and my husband here, and luckily he's here. He's normally working, and I'm home with the kids. I have so much more to say. All right. So basically, save the kindergarten class. There's 24 kids, 1 teacher, no paraprofessionals. It's a sink or swim position. I have my life preserver and like my family here who are supporting me. And I feel like there's a lot of people in the community supporting, but they can't speak publicly. I can't speak publicly. I don't know how this is happening right now, but I feel like people's opinions need to be heard and not just publicly. Thank you.
Any other?
Good evening, Dr. Treese, members of the board, and our community. I haven't been here in a while. My name's Kristen. I'm a district parent, a licensed mental health professional, and I stand before you tonight representing ECO PTO as co-founder and co-president. A reminder that our mission, although we're not sure it might be the vision, we're still working that out, is youth and earth well-being. I'm here tonight first to just reiterate or remind very genuinely that I feel like you're doing a great job. So none of us hear that enough, and I just want to make sure I don't forget to say that. So thank you. Secondly, ECO PTO believes that we are at least a partial, tangible solution to systemic wellness within the education system. So what does that actually mean? Now we're not California, but I've got my eye on California right now. They are going through a transformative movement called the Outdoor Learning Policy of 2026. It's Assembly Bill 2158. It aims to move 20 to 25% of student instruction time outdoors. This policy is built on a mountain of data proving that learning outside the classroom's four walls is vital for children to truly flourish. And I know that I don't have to tell any of you that. You all know that. But putting it into practice is a whole different ballgame. But you and the district and we are doing so much already. It's just a matter of how I see it is putting these puzzle pieces together. So, for example, the climate action plan, the strategic plan, the rain gardens that just went into all 6 schools, the Fairgrown Farm CSA membership, even I forget your name, but saving kindergarten of needing more volunteers, needing more connection with each other. That we believe, again, we are the partial solution to this. And I'd like to propose a conversation about continuing to basically a pilot project conversation to implement something similar to California of the 20 to 25% outdoor learning. And EcoPTO would provide a lot of the resources, the professional development. We'd direct you in curriculum that's already written. We'd work with the SEL district committee. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Okay. Oh, okay.
Hello. Let me sign in. My name is Mikołaj Widlicki, or I go by Nick. Rumson Court, Pennington. That was an awesome suggestion about the EcoPTO. I know my kids treasure time outdoors, so it's very valuable. I think that's a great idea. I just have a more, not so much a comment, but a question, a genuine curiosity. We have ongoing construction in the township. It does not appear to be complete. So we're wondering how the board envisions the next 5 years going as far as student to teacher ratios are concerned. What preparations are being made in that regard, kindergarten through 12th grade, what programs, how the budget may change, how you envision cuts being necessary versus additional state subsidies coming our way versus additional taxes coming out of these developments or not coming out of these developments. I'm not sure how that's going politically. There seems to be a lot of corruption. I hear a lot of rumors. I don't know any of it. It's what's true, what's not. But it's just concerning as a citizen here. Personally, I came as an immigrant myself. My parents had $200 cash in their pockets when we came here. I didn't speak a word of English. And Americans of all colors, stripes, creeds were extremely kind to me as a child. And this is a very warm and welcoming place. Americans are some of the kindest people on earth. So I don't think there's any issue with attitudes in the community, but I do think there's an issue with financial responsibility, stewardship, and ultimately just preparation. If you expect more children coming here and the construction isn't even complete, so you can't even really predict how many more children are joining the school system and what their needs will be. I guess you guys are the experts. Where do you see this going? What do you think we as citizens, where can we go to lobby? What should we be advocating to the township? Many people in Hopewell don't have kids. They could care less about the school system. We're obviously not in that bucket. So where could we go? What should we be advocating for? So the school system has resources to add, not cut. That's my question to you guys. You guys are the experts. We are just kind of here to learn. All right. Thank you.
Hey, Nick, thanks for opening the forum a little bit. My name is Steve Niederer. I'm a Hopewell Township resident. Orchard Avenue. He was just mentioning some budgeting issues, which that just kind of piqued my attention a little bit. So I'd like to just thank you all for being here tonight and putting all of your hard work and time into Hopewell Valley School System, which I went through and I really appreciate a lot, for when I paid attention at least. I had a good time, but I'm still here, so thankful for that. That brings up the whole pilot issues with the construction and how this town and our leadership, I'm not pointing any fingers here, but I would like to redirect some attention to Hopewell Township and their leadership specifically, and the deals that they've done that are directly impacting the Board of Education. And a lot of people are frustrated at you guys right now, but they shouldn't be frustrated at any of you whatsoever. It's all Hopewell Township Committee that have made these decisions and these agreements, and it's putting a lot of pressure on you. So I want to try to help advocate and educate everyone in this room, in this town, and let them know that the decisions weren't necessarily made by you. Your hands are tied, and now you're getting an influx of students, some of which now existing students that are going to have to redistrict because of all of these numbers that the previous mayor and township had said you're going to hit a certain threshold of students, and it's already past that amount, and the construction still isn't over. So I would just like to express my frustration, but also not point it at anyone here, and just let you know that I would like to try to keep working forward and figuring out how we can advocate for our education system and our public safety, and try to get the entirety of pilot funds over to our education and public safety, because the township right now is being extremely reactive to this entire situation when they should have been very proactive. They'll praise that they're proactive, but that's not the truth because of the issues that are happening right now. Our infrastructure is struggling, and all of that money that they've received, 95% of the pilot funds the township has, they don't have any restrictions on where to put that money, where my taxes, 54 to 58%, I forget the exact percentage, go to our education system, but none of that money is required to go to the education system. So that $16.1 million or whatever that went to Bear Tavern is a drop in the bucket for the amount that needs to go to our education, or it's going to keep stressing out our infrastructure, and it's not going to be good for our students to grow here in this town. Thank you for your time.
Any additional public comment? Okay. There's only. Oh.
Okay. He is saying he will not speak, but he had spoken so much when I picked him up from school today. He saw my lifeguard shirt and he's like, "Mom, are you going to get another job? Lifeguard?" I laughed because I am a lifeguard, actually. I feel like, in addition to being a mom, a pharmacist, etc. You know, we moms kind of do a lot, you know, but you know, it's too much maybe to take on everything, right? So he's like leading me into my I am.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
we can't have you speaking for your son. We really just
okay. Thank you. I just wanted to say basically I'll just finish there. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to addressing some of the comments. I'll let Bob and Dr. Therese speak to some of the budget items, as well as I just want to celebrate the Eco PTO. Just I know writing mission statements and vision statements, it takes time, but I appreciate you doing that hard work because there's so much that can get done, and if you don't focus, it obviously you don't accomplish as much. So thank you for taking the time to do all of that work. And I'm sure that, as your opportunities and your ideas bubble up through in the district, going through Dr. Teresa and the other building administrators, I'm sure we'll hear more great things. So just want to acknowledge the Eco PTO, and I have an outdoor guide or two in my household, so yay for outside. Also, just want to acknowledge that the conversation about the pilots and the township committee, as the board and as the administration, we have established or are in the process of establishing a rhythm of meeting with boroughs and township committees to talk about the latest numbers and growth and what are the impacts to the schools and things like that. So I think that we are in the execution phase between the referendum and building and continuing to plan, which obviously leads to the budget notes that I'll happily pass the torch over for. But I just want the community to know that it has been a journey for all of us, and we have established a line of communication that will, I believe, continue to inform the township and what we're struggling with as we're learning, not just the ideas about redistricting, but transportation challenges and whatever we learn along the way. We are bi-monthly meeting with them to pass along that information and really see what they are willing to offer up. They were quite generous in their time with us, and so I'm quite optimistic. I certainly encourage you all to have your voices be heard to the committee meetings when you have an opportunity. It does matter. The other piece I will say is, as we grow, we are transition in the terms of growth caused by growth is a dynamic that is it's ambiguous at times, right? You don't know where people are going to move. You don't know who the age of the families are going to move. And so we're opening our mind to just say we're ready to receive whoever comes. And as we plan, the space is based on the planning work with the demographer, right? So that was the advanced planning we were able to do, and it's the best information one could have. Now you're going to have the facts of the matter, right? The families move in. You don't know how many kids or the ages of the kids and all those things, or the needs of the kids. And that's where the district has been incredibly agile. And I cannot say enough about the administrative body's effort to take any child who registers for our district. So know that every child is our child. The district operates that way in word and in action. And we're going to work together to keep those communication lines open about the needs that come from not knowing, right? The not knowing the who and the what the needs are. And we hope we have partners in adapting as things go right instead of left, and as they do. But we do encourage you, as you learn about things, to also take that feedback to the township committees, because that is another outlet. So with that said, I'll pass the baton over to Dr. Teresa.
Yes, and I'm going to ask Mr. Calavita to help me with this, but there was a question about school budget and kind of, what we're up against in the pilot. The pilot is a challenge. The building was happening quicker than we were able to react to it. And again, that's not a decision that the district can make. So I thank you, Mr. Needier, for sharing that. It was a decision that the township made, and the boroughs are also looking at bringing in pilots. This community was shrinking in enrollment for many years, and we were able to do a lot of things because of that. We weren't getting the number of students other districts were getting, and we had a robust staff. We were able to support it financially, but for probably the past decade, Administrators have been crying out that we were approaching this fiscal cliff that we were all approaching because the way we're funded in the state of New Jersey, the way public schools are funded, and specifically districts like this one, where it's considered an affluent district, you get very little funding from the state. It comes from the taxpayer base. So when folks kind of say, well, why does Princeton have this and West Windsor have this? They get more state funding than we do. It all has to do with your demographics. And if you have a very low number of students that are considered economically disadvantaged, then you don't get a lot of funding, right? That funding doesn't come to us. It comes from you. So when we add additional programs and things like that, when we have to grow with the tax base that we have, that is then turned over to the taxpayer. So we are left with the very difficult job, and this board has struggled along with us to decide what do we keep, what do we let go, and how do we maintain what we have and what this community values without taxing you out of your houses, without affecting people that don't have children in the district in a way that they feel that they're paying for something that they're not sure why they're getting the value of. So we struggle with that. And we have all lobbied in our unions, in our professional organizations to try to do something about this at the state level. But it is a problem. And then there's mandates that they pass, like the way we have to give health care, the way we have to address certain mandates, like rolling out new curricula every year. And then they expect that in September. And then you have to go replace everything. Those sorts of things make it hard for a district to react. And then we get very little funding from them. So one of the things that that you can do as a community member is to just kind of pay attention to what's going on. At the government level, we talked a lot about school budget. We videotape and record everything. We have budget primers because school finance is very complicated. People don't understand it. It took me a while to get it. Took all of us here a while to get it. So pay attention to those when we have those town halls. When we have we start talking budget in August, and we talk all the way up to we finally get our numbers in late winter, and then we're striking a budget a lot of times before we even have our final state aid numbers. So we struck about 3 or 4 different ways budgets, cutting and keeping you flat, trying to go to 2%, trying not to go over cap, and there's just no way to do it and maintain the things that we have. So one of the reasons I know that this public comment happened, I'm going to flip about kindergarten, was a discussion about kindergarten paras. And I'm going to say, when I say a kindergarten para, these are extra paraprofessionals that we had in our classrooms for years to help support the teacher. A lot of districts didn't have those for years. They had parent volunteers, someone mentioned that would come in and they would help, and they would be room moms or room dads or room parents to help in the classroom. We were fortunate enough to have enough staff to cover that. We no longer can afford it. For me to add kindergarten paras in every classroom, and the board really discussed this for a couple years, we really dug into, is this something that we can continue to do? And quite frankly, no one in Mercer County does it anymore because we can't afford it. If I added just a kindergarten para just to have a room aide, that's $1.1 million for me to add to the budget that would be passed on to the taxpayer. And then the first chance, the first time someone comes in and needs that paraprofessional for their educational program, which is what a para is supposed to be there for, I have to reassign that para to that person who needs it by law. And so then we had that going on. So we really haven't had kindergarten paras for 2 years now. And our teachers and students are still thriving because our class size is still manageable, and we do still have paras in the room. They are just working directly with students with IEPs. We still have lots of therapists, and some classrooms have 2 teachers because there's enough students in there that requires that. So we still are taking care of that. I would rather, this is when I can add a kindergarten para by state code. If a kindergarten classroom reaches 30, I need to go to the executive superintendent, ask permission, and then I can add that paraprofessional if he gives me permission. Before I do that, it costs me more money. I would hire another kindergarten teacher and split that section because that's too big for a kindergarten class, right? So we think about all of that, not knowing where people are going to land. And that's how we think about our budget when we're planning, because we don't know what's coming and when I'm going to have to do that, when I'm going to have to split a section I'd rather have a teacher who can instruct students, who's qualified to do that, than someone that could probably be a parent that could help with that. If we can do that, if we can get enough volunteers to do that. And we have a lot of parents that want to do that. And so we've been talking to our principals about ways that we can get our parents more involved in the classroom, because I know many of you would love to come in and volunteer and help out. Bob, would you like to add anything else about the budget?
No, I think you did a great job in explaining where we are. I think something that we should really talk about is that our fiscal issues that we're having right now are not only tied to the pilot. We've talked a lot at Finance Committee and with the board about how Dr. Treese mentioned how we deliver health care. Dr. Treese and I got an email from a resident this morning or over the weekend that talked about, why don't we go out and rebid our health care?
Be nice.
Okay, why didn't I think of that? You can't. Okay, the state has implemented a system where we're not allowed to change health benefits until 2027. So this district, in cooperation with our bargaining groups, had greater participation in being consumers of health benefits, where staff members made choices that mattered to their family. Not because it was, you have to take this or you have to take that. They made a conscious decision. I want this plan. I'm willing to pay more for it. I don't need this. I'm 23 years old. I don't have any health issues. I'm going to take the basic plan over here until maybe I have a family. There was choice. People made choices, and they made an economic decision at the same time. And the district thrived for 40 years on that model.
That's right.
Until it was taken from us. Okay? So those kinds of things, and with the crazy inflation in the healthcare industry, that has affected us this year. We've been able to keep costs under control with our model, our self-insured model. So there's a lot of things going on. I am thankful that we have not been affected by the S2 law. The S2 law took state aid away from districts and gave it to underfunded districts like we were. So we have been fortunate over the last 8 years now, where we've received additional state aid, and not like our neighbors in Robbinsville who are suffering not only with reduced state aid, but even flat state aid is a problem. And our districts in Monmouth County and who lost millions of dollars in state aid. So I consider ourselves fortunate that we are where we are. We don't like to raise taxes. We see what's coming, and we're trying to manage it as best we can. We asked, where do you go? You go to the people who are doing the pilots. I know we've met with them on several occasions. The $16.1 million that you referenced is extremely helpful. I think Dr. Treese and Ms. Galliano met with them again last Friday.
Yes.
I'm sure information will be coming out about that. But again, a long-term sustained partnership with our municipalities is where we need to start to build. And it happens in other communities. I know Woodbridge has an agreement. I know Ewing has an agreement. I think Hamilton has an agreement with pilot funds. I think it's continuing to work as a community to kind of try to help us mitigate this fiscal cliff.
Then there was a question about public comment, posting the minute. So I wanted to say that public comment works typically like this in most. Oh, sorry. Sure, absolutely. Uh-oh.
No, you're not.
Yes, you want John's?
Use John's.
Sorry. Just because I know the family is new and hasn't been to the board before, I do really, really recommend going back and watching the videos, but also understanding that once the budget is struck, it has to go to the state comes back to us. So unlike your own house budget where a new expense might come up and you're just like, oh, we can hire a new kindergarten teacher, a school district cannot do that. The other thing is we are capped at a certain percent every year that we cannot go over. So even if we wanted to add $10 million to the budget and our taxpayers were like, yes, like we want another $10 million in taxes because we love our school system that much, we still couldn't do it because we are capped at a certain percent. So this is just my plea for the community to educate yourself on how the budget works. And then, as it was said, also talk not only to our township committee, but talk to the other people in the township about what their sort of ability to absorb taxes is and what they want.
Can I then also add? I was getting ready to climb on a soapbox, on my favorite soapbox, and then you all went and stole my thunder. So to add to what was said, let me start at the top line for the folks who are new to this. This is a state problem. This is a problem that's created in Trenton, and so the first people that you need to go and hit are your state legislators. And when you do them, don't go, hey, schools need more funding, because at the end of the day, that's just taking your tax money and taking it from it. Instead of going into this bucket, it's going to go into that bucket, right? They're, well, for lack of a better word, idiotic things that they put in place, which severely restrict us in what we're able to do, and they need to address them. That's the top. That's where the problems start. Or specifically for the pilot, because I heard somebody mention that there's talk about corruption. I have not heard of any even allegations or investigations into what was going on with pilot. Now, that's not to say that the way pilots are set up is not screwed up. It is. But again, just whether you agree or disagree with what the township did, and I'll withhold my opinion, you all need to understand they went about it legally. They are completely within the bounds of how the state law set up pilot program, right? So again, the problem starts in Trenton. Pilot is a major issue for us, right? And then the other comment that I will add to what Dr. Priest said, that the school budgets are very complicated. They are, but they're also very simple, as I found out after 4 years. We're limited in the amount of money that we can raise. And most of that money we're required to spend on things that the state requires us to spend it on in the way that the state requires us to spend on. So there's a very, it's not super thin, but it's a much thinner sliver of funds that we have to play with than people think. And that's the simple problem of the school budgeting, right? And so those are the variables that we're trying to play with. And in a situation that we're in now, and we went through this, this year, I say, was by far the most difficult. This year, the budget process was more difficult than than my previous 3 years on the board combined, because everything was a trade-off. If we don't cut this, then we have to cut that, right? And not that we get to that level of detail, because that's the administration's problem, right? But we're very cognizant that this district will be making some very difficult choices for probably a number of years. And again, then you're going to come back and you say, well, why didn't you guys plan for it? Well, I wouldn't say that we didn't plan for it, but executing on any plan would involve having some flexibility on what you do with your money. We don't. Right, so that's kind of the situation that we find ourselves with. I'll leave you with this. There was a lot written about this by me, but also by, I think, pretty much all the members of the board last year because of the referendum, which we thankfully passed, because if we had to find $80 million over the next 5 years of capital improvement in our $100 million a year budget, then the classroom sizes would be in the 30s, if not higher. I actually did that projection in one of the articles, okay? But there's a lot of information. If you go back to MercyMe, if you go back to Hopewell Express last year, there is a lot that's written there about it. If you kind of want to get educated, I'm not going to try and do it now because we'll be here until 4 a.m. and my fellow board members will be very upset with me. So that's all.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important, Dr. Resnick. And while it sounds like we're giving you a lot of homework, it is more just an appreciation for how challenging it is to understand the process and the budget, just the challenges we're dealing with. And we kind of joke all the time about everybody comes in their first year on the board and they're like, I am so changing the budget process. And then you get in, you're like, this is what we got. This is way harder than I thought. So we, as everybody's taken that first year learning, and so we're all jokes aside saying, we get it. It's complicated. It seems like it should be much easier because the number's so big. But we do have the challenges of the rules that are given to us by the state, and the big ticket items that are we're all experiencing our personal lives, which are inflationary issues around gas and energy and healthcare. So we're happy you're here in the conversation and that you care about understanding it and know we're in this conversation together. This year, as Dr. Resnick mentioned, it was the hardest because of the trade-offs, but also we are really clear the quality of education that is expected from our community and we want for our children in our community. So there was not a decision that was taken lightly. And so thank you for being willing to come. Thank you for asking the questions, and continue to come and ask questions so that you can help educate yourself, but also the community, so that we're all steering in the same direction. And when we listen for what are the trade-offs you're willing to make as a community, we can try to hear those through a lens of understanding that the budget process makes a little bit of sense for you. So any other things you want to
there was a question about people being able to submit their public comment in writing and all of that. So I just wanted to just share the budget, the board agenda and how it works. The board is conducting their business in public, but it is a meeting for that. So the reason why we limit comments to 3 minutes, and that's usually pretty much the practice, and we do it twice. And then there's certain times, according to code, where we put public comment after the budget hearing, after the achievement report, after the safety and security report, that we're mandated to do all those things. In addition to, we have to pay our bills. That's what is on the consent agenda. The board is selling their committee work, sharing their committee work with their colleagues and with you. There is a lot of work that has to be conducted in the board meeting. So they build the agenda. So if there's something that you really need to talk specifically about that's at the school level or as curriculum or that, you can always reach out directly to us. You can reach out to your administrators, your principals. You'll get a better opportunity for the back and forth, for the questions, for the sitting down, having a conversation than you can in a board meeting, just based on the way we're structured. And we're all here and available to do that. Even the board have met with people offline when, the board president and I have met with folks. Your representatives are around, you can talk to. But in the board meeting, it's kind of hard to just have that back and forth. And I know that's frustrating. And that's when we do have something that we feel like, we need to have that time. We do have in-person meetings, like I had the safety and security forum, where you can have that and you can ask your questions and we can do that. But in the board meeting, it's kind of tough. But we do record everyone's comment. We do post all the videos and all the agendas and our minutes. We're very good about that. So if you're not able to attend this meeting, I know that sometimes we bump up against one of the 3 municipalities meetings that are around. There's a lot of meetings happening. We can't not try to schedule over each other. It's just going to happen. So, if you don't get a chance to come here and you want to go there, know that we post the videos and all of that for you. And you can watch it on TV at home also.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anything else anyone wants to add? Okay. With that, thank you again. Public comment is now closed. Next on the agenda item, just want to check in on any old business items. Are there any old business items? Seeing none, I need a first and second to approve the consent agenda items.
Motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Okay, seeing none, consent agenda items are passed. We're going to go ahead and move on to our committee updates, and starting off with finance and facilities. Are you in a position?
Okay. So first of all, thank you, Madam President, for subbing in to help with some of these notes. Appreciate that greatly. So we met as we normally do, usually a week or so before the meeting. I think there's 3 big items to share with the crew as to what's going on. We kind of teased the first one, which is that both Anita and Rosetta had a chance to meet with the township. This is in regards to our agreement that we are actively engaged on with them for the $16+ million. That is a part of their commitment for Bear Tavern for the expansion. There is, long story short, some of the legalese language, we're at a point where we have given it back to them, and their attorney is now looking at it, and we are hopeful that we're going to get that back as soon as we possibly can. I think the bigger piece that I know both of them alluded to during public comment is it appears as though we're in a decent position with them right now when it comes to communication and establishing some sort of long-term strategic plan with them to help with financing. The same that we're going to have to do with Hopewell Borough and Pennington Borough, which is great, and hopefully they can help lay the foundation of what that could look like. So I think as a board, we're hopeful that we're going to get that agreement back as soon as we can, and I'll just like to publicly say thank you again to the Township Committee for getting that back to us as soon as they can. Some other items we talked about, we had a conversation about food service sales. The administration seems to be happy with the new manager there. A lot of good new creative ideas, students being involved in those ideas, and things are responding well to them. There are some options around the sort of revenue that we're bringing in, which is going to help make things a little bit more efficient and effective for delivering that service, which is good. Some more to come on that. We did have an update from Bill on facilities, talking about the sewer line at Bear Tavern, talking about some of the air valves to release pressure. We'll need to be able to replace them within the year. We talked a little bit about toll gate maintenance on a generator that was due to be replaced during the break. The replacement engine that came in was a rebuilt one, not a new one. It's going to be another 7 to 10 days before that work can be completed. Has that been? It's been 7 to 10 days. Do we know if that's been completed? The generator. Not in yet. Okay, so we're still waiting on it. It'll take 7 to 10 days to complete. And then we got an update for. Yeah, that's what I had commented. Yeah, I had commented on that. They sent the refurbished, not a new one. Gotta love it. And then we spent some time talking about some of the scheduled work that's going to begin on the roofs this summer. There was a site visit with the vendor that was chosen to start talking about the roof at Stony Brook, at the high school, at Timber Lane, which is a net positive. I think, as we're talking about what that looks like moving into the future. We talked a little bit about the Bear Tavern HVAC temperature units that are in use and the double units that are going to be added to improve comfortability. Bill also held some design meetings on May 11th on some of the new build items. Not too granular. Luxury is not the goal here, but ultimately looking just to make sure we're doing the most effective work possible with this. And then we're also in a bid phase for the Bear Tavern Playground for building this summer. So I said a lot there. Any questions from anybody on the board? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Awesome. That's the thoroughness. You didn't have any questions. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to EdCom and SCL.
Okay, so we met last week, and we had 3 different presentations. We had Matt Aron, who is our supervisor of math, come, and he reviewed, again, the timeline for the 5th to 6th grade math placements. He had previously shared that at our January Ed Program Committee. And so after analyzing the data, he for the placements, he had originally created a certain rubric, but we wanted to create more access to pre-algebra. So we revamped the rubric slightly to allow more students access to the course. We also talked about the fact that next year we have been incorporating the NJSLA scores into this rubric for placement, but because of the new assessment, we're not sure how that's going to look, so we might have to tweak that again moving forward. There was a lot of conversation about placement trends across the elementary schools, and then around the perceptions around the pre-algebra program overall. We also talked about the idea of perhaps revising and revamping the middle school math courses offered over the next course of the years. So we're going to explore that more and come to ed program in September with a plan. We next had Dr. Mary Pankos, who's our ELA supervisor. She went through the process of how certain texts for courses are selected and approved within the district. We also discussed the recently passed Mahmood ruling, which allows parents to opt students out of certain materials based on religious beliefs. And so we explained how the district is going to be very transparent in what course materials will be offered in each course. The 3 books that were proposed and approved at this last ed program was Finding My Way, The Miscalculations of Lightning Girl, and The Serengeti Rules. And then finally, we had Corey Rutt, who is our supervisor of counseling. She reviewed Character Strong as our character education program that we use K-8. And so this year we had done a Tier 2 Character Strong intervention. And so she discussed the 2 rounds of the Tier 2 Character Strong pilot. So feedback was initially collected following the small group sessions, which were conducted about 6 to 8 times throughout the pilot. But after the first round, we came back as a team and identified that maybe the Tier 2 support may be better suited for a different student population than we originally anticipated. So we did a second round of implementation, and 21 students were served in this pilot for the Tier 2 across all 4 elementary schools. And so we are still in the process of data collecting and analyzing it to make a final determination if we want to further move forward with Character Strong Tier 2 next year. So that's TBD, more to follow. And then finally, I know there was a lot of chatter over this New York Times article that recently came out about the overall the state assessments are going down. And there was a link where you could look up your district. And so when you look on that link, it comes up with Hopewell Township. I just want to be clear that if anyone did look at that, that is not our district. That is Hopewell Township in Cumberland County, not Hopewell Valley. For some reason, that is not searchable on the platform. But when I looked at the data that was used in that platform, it was saying the same results as we had talked about over the last few months, what we had from the NJ.com report, that overall our students are doing well on the state assessments, but our learning rates, which is our growth, our student growth over time, that is down, and that's something that we are working on for next year. So more to follow on that.
Yeah, I just want to add a shout out to and what to a positive development that I see happening, and in this case it's to Matt and Corey. In both cases, they tried something, they looked at the numbers, but they actually looked at kind of what's behind the numbers, and they said this isn't doing what we intended it to do. And you mentioned this specifically for characters a strong Tier 2, but you kind of glossed over what Matt did the rubric, and then you said, you know, we weren't seeing what he wanted to see. He actually looked in multiple ways to identify students that really should be in pre-algebra because they clearly belong there, and he identified that the rubric was not capturing those students properly, and then he went and he actually looked at where the discrepancies were between how the rubric was constructed and what we would want to see, right? And he went and he proposed adjustments to the rubric. So he actually used the numbers from the various sources that we had to get to an outcome, kind of in the same way that Corey did. So I was very, very happy to see us doing that as a district. And I know that there are issues still that we see in math placement into Math 6 across the elementary school, but I kind of see some hopeful developments there that we're using all the information that we have now to try and address these.
I had a quick question. So, related to the Tier 2 curriculum for the Character Strong, so I know you mentioned you're still waiting for the assessment results to come in, but I'm just curious. So, if we see the results we hope to see, do we have a plan or an idea in place about how we're going to scale these up next year to sort of a larger population of students, or just what all are you thinking in that regard?
Yeah, so we're working through that, Pam, but we really need to see the results, and we're not sure. That's why we really want to see the end of the year rubrics and data before we commit to the program. But if it shows in a more positive way than we're anticipating, then yeah, we will plan to implement it more rigorously across the elementary schools.
I had a quick question about how the district is moving forward with implementing the Mahmoud Taylor case and ruling. So I'm just curious, what I've seen is that there really isn't a consensus across the state and really across the country on how we're handling this in terms of teachers developing curriculum, in terms of creating a process for parents and students. What was the conversation like in committee?
Well, first off, we want to be more explicit in what course materials are being offered in each course. So on the website, we have the course overviews for different courses. So as a summer project, we are going to be updating those course overviews with specifically like what books are being read, what articles, etc. We're asking teachers to index their classroom libraries. And then we'll post all of that. We do have, I've talked to other districts in the county about their process for this. And so we do have a process in place if there are if there is any parents who do choose to opt out their students. And so we can talk more about that. I don't think that has been, it's not really a policy, it's just more of an internal process.
Yes, and we've had parents before this ruling, right? You have parents that have opted out of certain like sex ed and things like that because of their religion. We've had that before. And it's been just more of you have to be very transparent what you're teaching. And then the parents would reach out to the principal, and then we make arrangements for that child in a way that they're not singled out. But that has always existed. That's not anything new. So just making sure that you communicate, this is the way that you opt out of something. And this is who you need to communicate that to. And then keeping very thorough records with that. And you're not going to have a large number of students doing this. It'll be, a small few, but there are folks that this has been an issue with for a long time. As long as I've been in education, this is not anything new.
And if I understand it correctly, but the difference between opting out of sex ed historically, this ruling allows someone to opt out of any course or curriculum that goes against their family's personal religion. From what I understand, that's in the dissenting opinion. I think it was Justice Sotomayor wrote that, even conversations at the elementary school level of like girls can do anything in some traditional faiths that goes against some of the principles there, and that this court ruling now opens up that possibility for parents to opt their student out of even pretty fundamental equity-oriented conversations we have in class.
You have you have rights. You can go to court and defend, right? But the way we've written our policy specifically is we talk specifically about that process in the policy that we adopted around this. So it wouldn't be opting out of everything, right? It wouldn't be that, and I don't anticipate that it will turn into that. I really don't. But there are folks that are, like for example, we had a population of students in a former school district that were Mormon, and they just really, there was a lot of things that the kids weren't exposed to, and we had a process around that. So I know that exists, but saying that, girls can't do anything, I don't know that we're going to get that granular, and our policy is not written in that way. We've been very specific about how we wrote the policy.
Vicki, there was one thing that you said that I want to get a little bit more on. So, There's one thing you said I want to get a little bit more specifics on. So you mentioned you have the summer project where you're indexing books, but then you went down to the level of indexing articles. I want to. Okay, right. We're not asking high school teachers if they use 2-page articles that they come up with, and okay, good.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Did you have any other, Paulette, did you have any other SEL related things you wanted to touch on?
We had a really great SEL day, and there was a lot of meditation and yoga and movement and outdoor exploration for not only the kids but in the afternoon for our staff. So it was really successful, and we had a great deal of really wonderful community volunteers to help make the day so special for the kids and for the staff.
Awesome. All right, moving on to personnel.
I also just want to comment. I think Wellness Day is such a beautiful example of like who we are as a community at Hopewell, and I love it. And I know my kids were very excited that they learned to fly fish, so they're very excited to go with Grandpa now and try this. So it was wonderful. Personnel. We had our wonderful retirees here earlier. I did just want to highlight, although I know he wasn't able to be here this evening, Mr. Neville Williams, who has been a bus driver at our district since 2014. So we acknowledged him earlier, but have not acknowledged him from personnel. So wanted to acknowledge him. We do have a few appointments coming in already now for our next school year. So you'll see some of those on the appointments list. We have some kindergarten camp teachers and paraprofessionals getting ready for our new students this summer, and so they'll be on this list as well. And then just a continuation of our current employee assistance program, our EAP program, now for the 2026-2027 school year. So those are the main things to emphasize from personnel.
Awesome. Any questions? Okay. Oh, you definitely.
Do we have a first and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Dr. Genovese, Mr. Kapadia,
Yes.
Dr. Lilliston,
Yes.
Mr. Peters,
Yes.
Dr. Resnick, Mr. Slotman,
Aye.
Dr. Stiliano,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter,
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. Okay. I guess you get to retire after all. Yeah, well, you know. Okay. Second read. Yeah. Moving on to government relations and government and community relations.
I can cover the government side. So we met this past week. We met today. Wow. It felt like
It's been a long day.
Oh, it's a long month today.
Today was technically this week. But we continued in the past month. We've continued working on the government relations side of the committee's mission. We've continued pushing forward on 2 ongoing initiatives that's been in the works for several months now. First, at the local level, we've been exploring the idea of endorsing a resolution that would call upon our local municipalities to lower the voting age to 16 for school board elections. Our first step in getting along on that process was to actually survey our students to see if they would be interested in this initiative. I'm glad and grateful to Dr. Treese and the administration in the high school and Principal Riley for administering the survey over the course of the past month. We've gotten around 300 responses, roughly proportionate within each grade level. I will be spending some time in the next month or two going through the data and ideally presenting some findings for the board. just as one preliminary finding, more than 75% of students across grades 9 through 12 were supportive, either strongly supported or supported this specific idea. So there is a lot of agreement and sentiment from our students in support of this initiative. The other great data point that this survey allowed us to collect was what the specific issues that students were facing and what they think we should be prioritizing. So regardless of how this initiative moves forward, this survey has allowed us to collect a lot of meaningful data in terms of how our students are perceiving the work that the board is doing, as well as some of the issues that they think we should be prioritizing in our next coming year. So that's movement on that specific initiative. The other one is the state budget request we have for the FY27 New Jersey state budget. Last year, we, for the first time in our district's history, requested funding from the state legislature to add a line item for an ADA accessible playground at Bear Tavern. We were able to successfully secure that funding, and moving into this year, we thought, why not try it again? So we submitted the request about a month ago now to the 15th Legislative District delegation, so Assemblyman Varelli, Assemblywoman Reynolds-Jackson, and Senator Shirley Turner, requesting $75,000 to sustain and expand our mental health supports through the AIR Therapy Dog program that we have. This comes in light of a few developments. One, the partnership we have with AIR, which is a Mercer County-based nonprofit centered around mental health destigmatization. The funds that have allowed that partnership to exist are federal title funds that are sunsetting. Additionally, about a year ago, we actually had the Youth Advisory Board of Hopewell Valley come and present to us and talk to us about how they ran their own survey and found that 66% of students in the high school face mental health stress. So there's really a compounding demand from our students, as well as some fiscal constraints that we're facing. So we worked with AIR to get a figure, that's $75,000. We have submitted the request, we've submitted a one-pager, and we've also launched an advocacy toolkit for community members or parents or students who want to email the legislators and call upon them to submit the budget resolution. I will say Governor Sherrill has voiced cracking down on some of the line items that have been historically included in the state budget, so I'm not sure how likely it is that we're able to get this funding. But like we said, the worst answer we can get is no, and the best answer we could get is, in the form of last year, a playground, and in the form of hopefully this year, some additional funding for mental health supports. So we've submitted those items. The last thing I did just want to say, and I've thought a lot about this on how we can better support some of the concerns that have been brought to us by the community relating to special education funding, relating to pilots and housing developments. And I think something that Dr. Treese has been incredibly proactive with has been going and testifying on different bills that come up in the legislature. And there are bills that address many of the issues that we often talk about that are languishing in committee. And one part of that is there really isn't a lot of community mobilization or organizing around some of these bills. And so something that I think we can look into as we move into, continuing the committee's work is seeing how we can, not only as board members, step in and help testify and move some of those bills forward, but also how we can engage with the community to also support some of those initiatives. And I'm happy to answer any more questions about that. If anyone in public comment has any questions, I'd be happy to chat about it. But yeah, those are my updates from the government relations side.
I love that you put together again the advocacy component for the therapy dogs request. When is that? What's the timeline on that?
So budget resolutions from state legislators are actually being submitted. The portal opened today, and I believe it closes at the end of next week. So this is really like the crunch time window of when legislators and their staff are deciding which items they're going to submit. I will say one of the pros of the request we have is it's on the smaller side relative to what other school districts request, as well as the other just general requests that nonprofits and municipalities submit to the state legislature. So the more emails we're able to send out, the more individualized they are, the better. The staff in our legislators' offices do really care about our requests and our community's voices. Last year, I can tell you, when I spoke to Senator Turner's office, she spoke very highly of the organization that we had, where we had so many parents in the Bear Tavern community and just broadly across HVRSD that were sending emails. So it makes a difference. And I have chatted with Assemblyman Varelli's staff as well as Senator Turner's staff, and they have received the emails, they have received the submissions, and they also have to, they have competing interests, but they have voiced, support as well for our submissions. So we'll see if it ends up actually making it in.
I can. I feel like this was one of these things flagged in my emails, and I have not gotten to it. So I will commit to reaching out to PTOs and seeing if we can do a big push. I think we've had individual parents do it, but sometimes that gets a lot of extra. So I can contact them tomorrow.
Thank you.
I
I
appreciate all your
appreciate
work.
it. Yeah, thank
Awesome.
Okay, good. We do have to share one thing. I can go ahead and share it. So we are finalizing our QSAC evaluation. That's the monitoring by the state. They give us a rating. And what's holding us up is that we have been flagged for our high school for chronic absenteeism, 11.5%. We've identified, we have a 7.1% as a district. This is at the high school, mostly 12th graders. So I need my seniors to come to class. Okay. And we've identified pockets of students that we need to address and come up with a corrective plan. So we've come up with a corrective plan. We submitted that to the state of really trying to address some of our seniors who don't want to come. But a good portion of this is, not a good portion, but a portion of this is the way we report out on some students who are out for on medical, or they're out on home instruction. We mark them absent home instruction. We need to switch that and make them they're present and they're receiving home instruction. So that was just a reporting glitch that is easily fixable and would have not had us on this corrective plan. But it's something that we do need to pay attention to, because we are also noting that the other subgroups that we need to address, and they're mostly seniors, are some of our students with disabilities that are suffering from mental health challenges or school avoidance, which is part of their what they're struggling with, and our Black and Latinx students are in that subgroup that are coming up again. So we talked about this in community relations and sort of how we need to work with communicating to our families and our students about the importance of coming to school, right? And how we can work on plans to get them to school in a way, or put them on plans themselves, because that will get us, if you have a student that's working towards getting back to school, having an IRS plan, a 504 plan, and all of those things avoids them just getting flagged for attendance when it's something you really are setting goals to try to improve. And then we have to figure out why do these populations keep coming up? Because we're seeing that in our test scores and we're seeing that other places. So we're going to, Ms. Riley spoke to community relations today and talked about some of the plans and the things that they plan on putting in place to support bringing this number down. And they've really been working hard on this for 3 years, so she was disappointed, but I know we'll get back on track. And then she's going to come talk to EdCom and start getting some ideas from you all too about the sort of like the Venn diagram and the overlap that's happening, where we see these groups keep coming up and up. I'm sorry, another group that also came up was our economically disadvantaged are also in this pocket. So how do we get these kiddos to school, and what's the barriers are there? And so she surveyed the parents about a year ago. She's going to put out another survey to parents to kind of see what can we do as a school district to support them. And then there's other plans about, how we can work on this. And so I've shared all that with you all. We'll talk about it in EdCom, and then we'll also report out to the rest of the board and the community as we work through this. But again, we still have excellent attendance, but we do need to put in a corrective plan and fix this.
I just wanted to add, one of the things that we mentioned is, right, we will take this very seriously because it's important to us. And in terms of kind of the state flag, 10% is the mark, and we were at 11.5. So we just tipped over. So this is not a scenario where we're getting flagged for very high numbers. It's just that we were slightly over. So we'll fix that.
We like the A's, Dr. Stillman. We like A's. We're very annoyed.
And just a quick measurement question. Do we know how is the state defining absenteeism for each child?
Each time they're out.
Yeah.
So that means, the number of children.
So it's using a total number per child and creating an average? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So the kind of data answer is one, which Dr. Treese had mentioned. Some of this is we can actually, the way we're identifying it for a few individual children, we're actually not identifying it correct and getting dinged when we really don't need to be getting dinged. And this is primarily if a student is in a longer term, let's say, hospitalization program where they're receiving education. We're not marking that correct. So that we can fix from a data perspective. In terms of how they calculate it at the school level, they take each student if they've missed more than 10%, and then we are graded on the number of students that miss more than 10% over the entire population. So yeah, that's where it's not a lot of students for us. That just tipped us over the edge, just a few additional students this year. Did that answer your question?
So more than
Yeah, it did. I was mostly wondering whether it's per student or whether there's a couple students who are absent a whole lot who might be dragging the average in one way, direction or another. But it sounds like what you're saying is no, actually, that's not the case. It's calculating it for each student, and then it's saying 10% or 11% of our student population meet this indicator of chronically absent. Okay.
and the 10%, that's the 18 days per year / 9 per semester. That's the 10%, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah. For our students that are out and hospitalized for long-term reasons, we were coding it as medical for many years. And I guess that was counted as an absence, where how we need to report it is present home instruction. But we had done medical for many, many years, and we have students who are having much longer stays in hospitalization programs.
So we were doing it wrong for many years, but nobody in the state noticed for it.
But the good news is with that change, we probably will drop below, and we also learned some stuff about things we can work on. All right, awesome. Thank you. I'm glad we didn't miss that topic. So just a quick check-in. Anything on climate action? Okay, awesome.
I just want everyone to know that on Thursday, May 28th, from 7 to 8 o'clock in the community room at the high school, we're going to have a celebration of the new rain garden there that the team has been working on. And we did mention that each of the schools had implemented new rain gardens. So please come out and join us May 28th from 7 to 8 o'clock.
Okay, moving on. That was worth waiting for climate action. Moving on to policy. Dr. Lilson?
All right, so the policy committee met on May 15th, and we were joined by Ms. Riley. And we actually spent pretty much the entire meeting discussing the student discipline / code of conduct regulation, which is 5600. So a little bit of background. This relates to our school's code of conduct, which establishes the standards, policies, and procedures around our student behavioral expectations. We do review this regulation annually. The board last revised it in October of 2025. So Ms. Riley joined us to discuss two different recommendations that she had, specifically related to the infractions around possession of e-cigarettes, vaping, and smoking paraphernalia, as well as drug and alcohol policy violations. And so I think the recommendation that she came to discuss was whether the committee would be willing to group these together into the same category. So historically, they've been treated as two separate infractions with different disciplinary consequences associated with them. So essentially what this would mean that students who are caught using vapes or cigarettes at school would receive the same consequences as those using other substances like alcohol or marijuana. So practically speaking, what it would do would be to increase the number of days of in-school or out-of-school suspension for possession of these nicotine products and require counseling as well as a consequence for the infraction. So I think there was a couple reasons that she brought this to us at this time. So I think the school has noticed that more students appear to be addicted to nicotine than other substances, and they feel that this could possibly serve as a deterrent. Additionally, they feel that, nicotine is an illegal substance like alcohol, and having a less severe consequence for nicotine could imply that the district is not as concerned with nicotine use as compared to other substances. And aligning with the disciplinary consequences under the other substance use infractions also would require that education and counseling now be a critical component of the consequence for having a nicotine product. So we did have a lot of conversation around this, in-depth conversation. I think the committee did express some concerns that aligning the consequences for these two infractions could further increase our use of exclusionary discipline practices, so in-school and out-of-school suspensions. We did see an increase, I think about 2 months ago when we reviewed our last student safety data. And I think we were a little bit concerned about what the implications of this could be for just using those practices more frequently and more broadly. And at the same time, I think one of the other things we discussed was that the student assistance counselor may become overwhelmed with counseling if they're seeing more and more students who've used nicotine in school and are required to receive these counseling sessions. So just some things that we discussed during the meeting here. As next steps, Ms. Riley was going to gather more information on what other school districts are doing in this space from a disciplinary perspective when it comes to substance use in general and nicotine use in particular. She also said she'd be surveying the students to get their thoughts and perspectives on this and compile some of the relevant disciplinary data. I think in particular, we were concerned about the use of suspension to sort of offset this behavior and wanted to see more, evidence that would, indicate that might be the case. The second recommendation that she brought forth was to add language around violation of the cell phone use policy as an infraction in the code of conduct. So as many of us know here, we're now rolling out a bell-to-bell cell phone use policy. This is mandated by the state. We're going to be rolling out in the next school year. And so the committee did discuss options related to the different disciplinary actions related to any infractions around this policy or violations of this policy. So we are expecting that we're going to have another conversation at the next meeting around this language, and then we'll be bringing the code of conduct forward in June for first reading in the board meeting in order to be able to incorporate the revisions before the next school year. So I'll stop there and ask the policy committee if I missed anything, if there's anything that you want to add just around that review of the code of conduct.
That was a great summary, Dr. Lillison. I think something that I've been reflecting on, I think we've both been reflecting on, this is my third year on the policy committee, I think this is your fourth year on the policy committee, Dr. Lillison. Something we're very appreciative of this entire board, I think, has been when we review the student code of conduct, we oftentimes do approach a lot of the changes we're making through a more restorative justice oriented lens. And that does really reflect in the amendments we've made to the policy over the last few years. I think something that I personally would want to see more of, and I'm asking the administration as we move forward through this conversation to look more into is really to flesh out what restorative justice really is looking like in these specific situations, because it is written in the code of conduct as a response to some of the infractions we see. But I think we oftentimes, at least as a board, and maybe even including the public, don't really get an inside look into what restorative justice is functionally looking like, in the different infractions that we see. So I think, as we're looking at changing how we're adjudicating nicotine use in the high school and in our district as a whole, I really do want to approach it more through, again, a restorative lens rather than a punitive one, and with that to really talk about how that is going to play out for our students and what that functionally looks like. Because we can use the language of restorative justice, but until I think we hear what is actually happening for those students, I think the less transparent and the less we know about what restorative justice looks like, the more it allows us to then just say we can just defer to suspensions as our tool for trying to curb this behavior. But I think there's a real depth and wealth of knowledge in the restorative justice field that I don't think we should be immediately looking to suspensions as our response to student behavior.
No, I think that's a great point. Restorative justice is one of those interventions that we know from the scientific literature actually does result in behavior change if implemented with fidelity. So I think that's a great point to sort of better understand how are we implementing this, and then whether we're seeing the intended effects that we hope on our disciplinary data. So, yeah. Anybody else have any questions, thoughts? Amanda?
Yeah. First, I want to say, I think we all agree that we want to decrease tobacco use and vaping use That's certainly not unique to our high school, but something we want to take very seriously here. And so I very much appreciate the work that's been done, particularly at our high school, to look at use of technology to better identify it in the bathrooms, and that we're starting to think around what can we do differently. And so I think that's a really great place for us to be. I had maybe a question and a comment. The first, which you don't have to answer live, but we can bring it back to the committee, is I think there was a note and you had mentioned about if the tobacco was the same consequences as other substances, that would allow for education. But I believe the way our current policy is written is education is under both categories. So as it currently stands, if there is a violation of tobacco or vape, that education is part of that. And so I wasn't sure.
Just clarifying
Yes,
that. So
please.
it would trigger a visit with the student assistance counselor, with the SAC. I don't know in practice, maybe Ms. DiNardo can answer that, whether that is the same as education or if we actually consider those to be different interventions.
It is the same as education. They're meeting with the SAC to talk about why we're using what habits, good habits can you replace. I mean, that's the educational piece because they're trained specifically in that.
Okay.
So that is part of the conversation we had. If we up the ante on the consequence and leaning heavily on education, which is what we like to do, right? Do we have the SAC resources to support that? And so those are all the conversations that we're going to have as we go back to the committee.
I think the question is, when you look at the current code of conduct under tobacco use, education is a required. So it doesn't sound like it would need to be changed in order for that to occur, if that makes sense. Okay. And then I think, let me think here for a second. I think ultimately, right, what we know from literature and research is that what supports children in terms of reducing substance use is having them in school, having them engaged in academics, having them engaged in after-school curriculars, and out-of-school suspension in particular, right, is the opposite of that, right? It's taking a child who's already struggling with substances, keeping them out of the community, very likely keeping them home alone where their access and likelihood of use is higher. And so I understand the desire to have consequences, and I think we need to take a bit of a step back and think about what do we know about what works, what prevention is needed, what interventions are needed. And so I'm very open to that as a conversation and resources. I know it's going to be looked at further, but I would not support an increase in out-of-school suspension for this, again, because I just don't think it works, and I think it goes against what we want here in Hopewell, which is having our children in schools. So I know the committee's going to talk about that further, but I just wanted to kind of put that out in terms of my vote.
Thank you. Any other comments? Or Jackie?
Oh, yeah. I also
Jennings.
just want to, I guess, caution us a little that the stereotypes around who is and isn't using in Hopewell doesn't hold true in Hopewell. So these are your student athletes. These are your straight A students. These aren't your hoodie up, goth, your stereotype kids. Use within Hopewell is across the board. And so I think that is important to remember.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Styliano's point is more about, we know what the protective factors are, and we ought to be really careful before we eliminate access to those protective factors, or be very thoughtful around it. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, as an old grumpy stereotyping dude, that I didn't hold those stereotypes and very well aware of who uses. Did not hold the stereotypes about who uses and who doesn't. Yeah, you're right. They all, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay. So the next steps, as I shared, is that's coming back to committee for conversation, more data, more information. And then we hope to be able to bring any revisions for first read at the next meeting. Okay. And then the second read's actually really quick here. So can I have a motion and a second to bring policy and regulation 1642.01 sick leave and 3125.01 employment of non-represented employees for second reading?
Motion. Second. Second.
So Ms. Cotter actually covered this at the last board meeting in depth, so thank you so much, Hope, for doing that. And we received no suggested changes to these policies. Does anybody have any questions or comments before we move this for a roll call vote? Okay, Bob.
Mr. Kapadia.
Yes.
Dr. Lilliston.
Yes.
Mr. Peters.
Yes.
Dr. Resnick. Mr. Slotman.
Aye.
Dr. Siciliano.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Dr. Genovese.
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Galliano.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. Thank you. With that, we are ready to move on to looking at calendars. Wow. Okay. First and second to approve May and June calendars.
Second.
Okay, we always start with the simple one. Personnel, June 15th, 6 o'clock. Right, 6. Ed program, SEL.
Can we look at the week of June 8th? I guess 8 a.m. I know we like our 8 a.m.s. Do you want to say Wednesday, the 10th? Okay. We could do Tuesday, the 9th. Okay. Well. No, the 10th. Okay. Well, we're back to the 10th. Okay. Thank you. The 9th. I guess we're having our person from our literacy review coming, and I know that's the only day that week she can't do. I could Monday the 9th, sure. Oh, Monday the 8th, yes. Good. Okay. John. Thanks.
Can we do finance on the 10th? Yes? No? Good? 10th? We might do that one in person.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. Policy. John and Drew. Yeah, govern community relations.
All in favor? Any opposed or abstaining? This one part always makes me laugh because why abstain? Robert Rules said do that thing, so we do. Okay.
You can imagine that there are some boards where people can't agree on calendar.
Oh, that's true. We'll thank our lucky stars. Okay, moving on to new business. Anything?
Yep.
What you got?
So we are announcing that we will have nominating positions will be accepted by the county. Their deadline is 4:00 p.m. on July 27th, 2026. There is a typo on the agenda. It should be three 3-year terms from Hopewell Township. I put Mark was going to have to run again this year. It's not it. There are 3-year terms from Hopewell Township. Nominating petitions will be able to be picked up in my office or online or at the county office. They cannot be returned to my office. They've got to be hand delivered to the county. Online, as was mentioned earlier, if you go into board docs and you click at the bottom, there's a candidates kit that has a wealth of information about what it is to run for the board, the requirements to run for the board, all that good stuff. So if you're interested in running, check out the link on board docs. And again, petitions are due July 27th by 4:00.
The only other item, just for everybody, you should all have received an email. Dr. Treese has been amazingly kind in getting all of her information in for her evaluation. So you all should receive an email from the system saying, how to log in, etc. So I'll send you an email with a due date, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention collectively. We should have a couple of weeks at least to get our part done. And
Just on that same note, just recall that the board meeting in June is early. It's the 15th. So
gotcha. We should. I mean, we're good. We're in good shape to do that. That's just. Yeah, Cisco might be eating your stuff, but you should have an email from NJSBA. Okay. All right. Well, we are ready to move on. Anything else? New business. All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to our second and final public comment for the evening. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You're asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administration. Members of the public who intend to participate and comment, we ask that you sign in prior to speaking. This will assist us with our record keeping. And again, 3 minutes. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you'll get the yellow, and red at 3 minutes. Public comment is now open.
I'm going to come up one more time. Steve Niederer, Hopewell Township. First, I'm going to sign in because I didn't the last time. I'm new to this as well. So, Mr. Resnick, is it? Yeah, I know you were just before. I know you were speaking in regards to got to get him from the top with the state of New Jersey. I'm totally in agreement with a lot of things you're saying, but I just want the board to realize this if they don't already. Our neighbors over West Windsor had similar mandates for affordable housing, and they agreed for the most part 1-for-1 with affordable housing. Our town at times 4-to-1. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, has done a lot of stress on our infrastructure. So all I'm saying is that our leadership needs to be held accountable for that. And all I just want to do is stress to say is that they need to pay. They need to empty their pockets and pay for our education for our kids. And that's all I have to say. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Hi, Sylvia Kosis, 7 Wydell Drive in Pennington, New Jersey. Mr. Colavita, you mentioned you were going to be able to meet with Governor Sherrill, I think at our last meeting, as a school treasurer. And I just wondered if you had any update for us as to if that meeting happened and were there any good things you could tell us about it. And Mr. Capati, you mentioned about that we need ideas and plans to mobilize the community to bring concerns about pilots, these tax abatement development to our representatives. And I just wondered if you had any plans or ideas, because this came up in the last meeting and we said we need to mobilize. We said we need to gather because this is a common ground issue. So I didn't know if you had anything in any plans for any of that. Shirley Turner, Verlena Reynolds Jackson, Anthony Varelli, and the township committee members. One of the things maybe we could do is have some type of a community meeting, a gathering, coffee, come to Starbucks, what's your concerns, anything like that. We could get conversations going. I just wanted to read again because I've done it before, but this is from that municipal tax abatement that was written in 2010, and it stands today, 16 years later. Based on research and findings in this report, there are shortcomings in the way that development-related tax abatements are currently handled in New Jersey. And then he gives some ideas about what to do. We recommend that the state legislature and the governor amend the current law to adopt these recommendations. 1, restructure pilot agreements. And he goes on to say that the current structure we know allows municipalities to keep almost the entire pilot monies. And that's a perverse incentive. Those are his words in this report. The law could be changed to provide that pilots, the collected monies, are split along the same distribution lines as the normal taxes. And we've talked about that. So that's number 1. Number 2, and we've talked about this tonight, he says include other affected stakeholders more directly in the earlier process. So school districts, tax-paying public should be interested parties in these abatement processes. And that's the second issue that he brings up. And I think both of those are really good. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, comments from the board or?
Mr. Neuterer, I appreciate your comment. Since I'm not a resident of the township, I tend to be sensitive about being told that I'm sticking my nose into my neighbor's business. So I try not. But I appreciate your comments.
My meeting was postponed.
You got bumped.
We were
Governor
hopeful.
Sherrill bumped you.
Ms. Kosis, yeah, I think it's a good point. I know we talked about this. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I think even in the meeting prior about like how we can actually be organizing. I think the immediate idea that I mentioned is really testifying on bills when they come up in committee, and in the process before that, having in the same way that we were able to create an advocacy toolkit, which was essentially a pre-drafted email as well as just general information about some of the specifics regarding the budget resolutions, we could very easily do that through the government relations committees for specific bills that we identify would be helpful. Right now, I think it's S1807 in the state Senate specifically addresses pilot financing so that municipalities would have to apportion a certain amount of those dollars that they gain from a pilot agreement to the school district. I mean, that bill has been reintroduced and languishing in the legislature for over a decade, but it did go through a committee recently, about I think 2 months ago or 3 months ago. And so what we can do as constituents, because at the end of the day, I mean, us as board members, it's all that's going to change is our signature at the end of the email that the legislators get, but they're seeing all the emails in the same vein, is that we can ask not only our legislators to co-sponsor the bill, but we can also ask our assembly members to introduce the assembly version, as well as reaching out to the Senate chairs and the assembly chairs of the relevant committees to introduce the bill and get them to actually post it for a committee vote. So those are really the two avenues that I think in the short term we can really mobilize folks on. It's sending emails, making phone calls to get bills posted and advancing through the legislative process, but then also yeah, exactly. So I hope that answers your question.
So on that subject, can you actually come up with an advocacy toolkit for that?
I can, yeah, absolutely. I think like for us as a board to
He has them in his back.
I mean, you as the committee,
you met
not
him?
you personally. Although I'll take it from you personally too. Right?
Someone will have to create it.
I like that you think that the committee doesn't mean that it's Drew doing it, so that's very, yeah, it's definitely coming from Drew.
I think it's important for us as a board to identify the bills first that we do want to mobilize behind, and then see how we can move forward. But it's not a tall task, and like I said, like if you get having worked in a legislative office, when we get a coordinated campaign of 20 to 40 emails, you notice it, and so I think. Ms. Kosas, to your point, I think there is really a sentiment here across the 3 municipalities that something needs to be done about the pilot financing, and this is something that is already working its way through the legislative process, and we can be a voice that pushes it to get posted in advance.
So 2 quick favors. Can you actually put into an email personally what that Senate bill is that I missed? And then the other thing you said, which now I'm going to learn about our state legislative process. You said people can come and testify during the committee process? So any member of the public can request to vote?
And you can...
kind of like public comment.
Yeah. And we I know like there's a lot of...
I learned something.
There's a lot of ethics guidelines for us as board members, but board members are allowed to testify in their capacity as a board member. As a board member. It happens very frequently.
But even beyond that, I'm allowed to come and testify as a private citizen who pays way too much in taxes. Okay.
Yes. You'll be sitting in that committee for a few hours, but you're allowed to.
Okay, so it's like a board meeting. I got it.
Exactly. Awesome. Anything else? All right, seeing nothing, we're going to close out our public comment, and I need a first and second to move us to executive session.
First.
Second.
All in favor? There are no actions to be taken. Oh, is that correct? Oh, action may be taken. My apologies. We'll be talking about HIBS, a student matter, and also the superintendent's contract. Okay. Thank you all for being an active participating body out in the audience this evening. Appreciate you.